to this edition of Upfront R.E.A.L. I'm Karen Whitney, Director of Communications for Ohio's Electric Cooperatives, and with me today is Pat O'Loughlin. He is our CEO and President. And the March issue of Ohio Cooperative Living Magazine, you've got some good news for cooperative members in there. They're going to be seeing money coming back into their bills. And this is at a time when everything's costing so much these days. So how are the cooperatives able to do that?
Thanks, Karen. It's great to be here this afternoon. And it's a little bit of a complicated story, but it at the same time tells us a little bit about what it means to be part of an electric cooperative. On the one hand, you're right, we're seeing the price of everything go up. People are seeing it at home, but we're also seeing it at our co-op. The price of the fuel that we buy to power our power plants, all the materials and supplies that we use, vehicles, equipment, labor, wages, everything has been going up over the last year or so. And so, likewise, our costs have been coming up. But fortunately, Buckeye Power, as the power supplier to the electric co-ops in Ohio, owns its own generation power plants and most days is able to produce more electricity than what co-op members need. And when we can do that, we're able to sell that into the wholesale market to supply other customers of other utilities, and we earn some money for that. In fact, we've had such a good year this year by selling excess power that we've been able to earn enough money to return dollars back to cooperative customers, because at the end of the day, we're a cooperative. If we have extra revenues, where does that go? It goes back to the members of the cooperative.
And I think in the March issue, it was $40 million, so sold a lot of power.
We have sold a lot of power, and it's been more valuable this year than it has been in quite a while. We've had some extreme weather events, we've had high fuel prices that's made it more valuable. And $40 million is a lot of money, but there's a lot of members of electric co-ops around Ohio. But it ends up being about $5 a month to the average electric consumer of an electric co-op here in Ohio per month.
Good, thank you, Pat, for explaining that. So PJM, just last week actually, at the end of February, that's the organization that manages our electrical grid in our region. They warned about risks to reliability of electricity, in our future, near future even. And they gave three main reasons: increased demand for electricity, retirements of plants, those replacements for those plants not coming on quick enough to fill that gap there. That's something that you've talked about, in some of our episodes here in Upfront R.E.A.L. But they still want to keep on track with their commitment to decarbonization by 2030. So they concluded in that report that to make this transition, there's going to have to be some collaborative efforts between state, federal agencies, policies being made, consumers, G&Ts like us. You're in the front lines of that, really. Have you seen some of that collaboration happening, people starting to really focus on reliability now?
Well, look, as electric providers, reliability is always the number one thing on our members' minds and on the consumers of electricity's minds. We'd like to take it for granted, but right now, today, we're at a point where I don't think we can take it for granted. We've been talking about this for a while. It's very important that we have the right mix of resources to meet demand, not only on days when the weather's calm, but on extreme weather events and days when power plants aren't working right. Whatever happens, we need to be ready for that. So as we've looked through the last several years, the efforts to decarbonize our electric system have been very impressive. We've dramatically reduced emissions of all types, including carbon dioxide emissions, partly by switching from coal to natural gas, partly by adding more renewable generation. But we've gotten to the point now where we've reduced carbon a lot, but we've started to bump into the reality that we're having a hard time providing reliable electricity every day. We saw that over this recent Christmas holiday. People might remember we had a couple of very cold days over the Christmas holiday weekend, and we came very close to having to ration electricity to people, forcing them to be out of service for a period of time so that we could balance supply and demand. Well, that's a position we never really want to be in, but we found ourselves there, and we're still seeing this continued disorderly retirement of conventional power plants. They're being replaced slowly by renewables, but they don't have a one-for-one trade-off. When we replace these baseload plants that can be turned on, turned off, ramped up, ramped down, with renewables that only come on when it's sunny or when windy, we don't get the same responsiveness and we don't get the same ability to meet the needs of our consumers. So yeah, it's going to require collaboration from our government officials to set good policies. We've had sort of extreme environmental policies over the last several years that have forced some power plants to close prematurely. We've had bad economic policies on how we pay power plants, trying to pretend like a solar panel and a coal-fired power plant provide the same value to our electric system when we know that's not true. And we've also just had this very rapid effort to decarbonize our electric system that may be too rapid right now. And so we need to take some time and evaluate that and try to get it right. Because if we're going to be successful at decarbonizing our electric system, we got to be successful at keeping the lights on at the same time. And that's the point that we're at right now. And it is going to require people in government, people in the industry, and policymakers of all types to come together and get our priorities straight. So we keep the lights on and we do it in the most environmentally responsible way possible.
Do you see that collaboration happening fast enough?
Well, so far it hasn't happened fast enough, I'll say that. In fact, people have been very slow to come off of their positions on what they think we should be doing. Maybe this is a wake-up call that's going to get us to move more quickly, to work together more effectively than we have so far.
You recently spoke in Washington in the Energy and Commerce Committee and spoke about some of these things. What do you hope happens from that?
So the messaging I tried to provide to our elected officials in Washington was how important it is that we have controllable generation until we come up with something that can reasonably replace it in a reliable way, that we can't let go of something that we've always depended on for something we hope will work. We need to make sure that we have something we know will work, and we're not there yet.
All right, thank you, Pat. We appreciate that. And you're doing your part, as you said, by speaking in Washington, and hopefully they'll do their part. And our consumers can do their part, the cooperative members, but all Ohioans out there, to make reliability of power important, because we all know when we turn on that switch, we want those lights to come on. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Upfront and Real.